Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
My name is Rashid Griffith, and I'll be moderating this brief discussion today. And the discussion here is hosted in conjunction with the Barbados Youth Development Council and the US Embassy to promote discussion in STEM fields, that is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Awesome stuff. And it's supposed to, on a whole, really on the importance and essential aspects of these subjects in going forward in education, which obviously is important for development for any standpoint. Also, it's also to promote Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson's free public lecture on November 20th. And it will be a very informative event because, as we know, Dr. Tyson, his passion is awesome again. Yes. So we will first discuss the topic of education and passion with my two colleagues here, Cherisse and Kimberly.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cherisse Francis, current president of the Barbados Youth Development Council. That's really essentially my role here at the panel discussion chat table this afternoon to represent the voice of young people in Barbados, more or less. I'll pass over to my next colleague so she can introduce herself, and then we'll begin.
Hi, I am Kimberly Norville. I'm currently the secretary of the BYDC. I helped organize this event. I'm a science student, so I have a particular interest in this topic and all that it represents, and now we can begin.
So one of my great events is that today is less about passion, more about process, more about tactical technique. But I don't know anybody who said, "Oh, I love that teacher. He or she gave a really good homework set," or "Boy, that was the best class I ever took because those exams were awesome." It's not what people want to talk about. It's not what influences people in one profession or another. It's how well the instructor imparted their passion for their subject. And just extend this to the sciences. We all know people who are turned off by science because they had a bad teacher. That's the worst case. The teacher now had the opposite effect of what education ought to be. So I don't know what to do. Do we rifle through the educational system and like get rid of those teachers and clone the others? I don't have an easy silver bullet there, but I do know, but that shouldn't prevent me from citing at least part of what the problem is. I want to see more impassioned teachers than are currently out there. And if you can light a flame in a student, that's half the work.
Great. So that was our first talking point. And to start off the discussion, I will pose a fairly decent question. We do know that we have all come through secondary school or high school, and we have experienced teachers that, let's say, weren't really the best motivators. And we realize that this is a common problem throughout any education system. So, in our place right here, what do you guys think is an interesting paradigm shift that the education system can take that actually ignite fires in students when they are in school? Cherisse?
For me, I think it all goes back to teachers, and what Dr. Tyson said was really important. If we don't have teachers who are excited about what they're doing, I think what's happening in Barbados, especially with the current job climate, is that teachers are tending to go into that field simply because they see it as safe or somewhere where they'll have a secure job. They're not doing it because they love it. So we have children teaching children. You can go into the teaching profession from the age of 18, having just completed CXCs, and you go there, you sit in a classroom, and you're trying to translate information that you barely know yourself to a new generation. I think a paradigm shift that needs to occur is, as much as we do need teachers, we need to ensure that there's a level of quality, and there needs to be constant training and assessment. It needs not only to be about your level of academics as a teacher, but it needs to be about creative methods. We need to move away from the point where teachers are just using textbooks and regurgitating information. It needs to be you coming into the classroom as a teacher and saying to your student, we're going on a field trip today, or we're going to use water to teach you a concept, something of the sort. It needs to be school not as normal. But for that to happen, the persons in the higher ranks of the educational system need to understand that people don't all learn in one way. Our system needs to stop training everybody to swim like fish. We have eagles, we have elephants. That's the crux of what needs to change in our education system for me.
I agree with everything my colleagues have said, but I also think there is another side to the issue. The quote is that education today seems to know more about process and less about passion. But to me, this does not only fall on the teachers. There are some students where you might have a teacher who is enthusiastic about their topic, wants you to have a very full understanding of their topic, but to the student, it's just about getting a grade. It's just about basically taking a check off on a list of topics you need for a particular career and whatnot, and not truly have passion for the field they're in. They're more thinking about, well, I happen to be good at this, so maybe this is where I should go. They aren't really exploring the field beyond what is taught in the classroom. So the passion also needs to be there within the students. Yes, the teachers need to be able to encourage this and light a fire under their students, have them very enthusiastic about the topic, but the students themselves also have to look within themselves to really think about, does this topic truly inspire me? Because passion is very important in anything that we do, and for passion can never be innovation or ingenuity. So now I would like to open this discussion to the audience and hear your views.
Yes. So to build on that, both those comments really open the wider argument that becomes problematic, as in it's quote a social systemic issue, where over time is happening for a logical decay in terms of how we truly understand what learning is versus what a job market is. So, for example, the idea of scholars saying the whole prospects of you are pushing for your market. So it goes from marketing, a market of education, academics, it's for the corporatization of the academy per se, versus the original traditional transcendent idea of what the academy was, a place of learning or education. So because of this change in systemic realization, we have the issue where people are just going into different fields simply because employment, not because I like this. It's not very quick to say or easy to say that, okay, well, that's wrong. Is it really that wrong to say the issue is a bit more complicated than that? Because and if it is still important for employment. So on that note, what do you guys have to say? I know you have things to say, I hear it all the time. So what do you guys have to say?
Sean?
Yeah. There we go.
There you go.
So, I mean, I guess it would be easy to say, you know, teachers just get into the job market just because it's a secure job, and that is true. But I think a lot of teachers don't realize how hard it is actually just to do the bare minimum as a teacher. I mean, they have to give assignments and then they have to mark tests and everything. That's for, in secondary school anyway, for 7-year groups. That's about, I mean, let's do the math here. There are 5 classes in each year group for the typical high school. So just marking alone takes up a lot of their time. And a lot of people do have this misconception that being a teacher is secure, but I think people need to have the realization that it is a lot of work to just do the bare minimum. And if we are to have good teachers, we need to have people that are actually passionate about teaching, not just the topic that they are teaching, but teaching itself, imparting knowledge to the people. And that takes a lot out of a person. I think it's extremely hard to find a good teacher. That being said, yes, we do need a lot better teachers, but that's really hard to find. Not only that, but if you want to rely on things like field trips or science projects, that's extremely hard in our economy to provide the money just to do fun projects, you know, like at the expense of material. There has to be some sort of innovative way to use easily attained products to make class fun. I have no idea how to do that. I'm sure there are a lot of thoughts out there, a lot of creative people, but of course that takes work as well. And that's a lot to put on the shoulders of a teacher. With students, personally, I know that it is a trend that I've seen that just because people's friends don't like a subject, then they're not going to be passionate about it either. I actually recently, I had to tutor a 21-year-old girl who wanted to do Kate math units 1 and 2 1 year. And basically she made the mistake of getting into sociology and these fields that she didn't like business and everything. She really didn't like them at all. She made the mistake of pursuing them really because her friend said that science was, you know, really boring and mundane sort of field to get into. Really, I think a lot has to be done to allow people to be passionate about what they want to be passionate about without having to deal with that sort of stigma towards a subject. I don't know, we could perhaps make it more known to people exactly what science is, because another problem is, I notice there's a huge gap, not just between CSEC to K, but K to university. I've looked at some university courses for science. I didn't care for science really. I mean, I wasn't really passionate about it up until I went and I actually did a university course in science, physics course, and I was shown Maxwell's equations, and that blew my mind. That was a breaking point for me. Now I know I want to do physics. There's nothing like that in biology. There's nothing like that in physics at Cape. There's nothing like that at Cape, there's nothing that really spurs the imagination. There's nothing that makes students passionate. There's just, learn this, get a grade, you're good to go. And really the syllabus leaves no leeway to allow for those wow moments. It's only when the syllabus includes those wow moments that you'll ever see those wow moments, and that doesn't happen at Cape level. And that's also another problem. It's very hard for people to get interested in a subject that they might have an interest in before they actually get into the root of it. And it's a very hard issue to address, I think. And well, personally, I think having Neil deGrasse Tyson here, that would definitely help. I mean, hey, a lot of people would notice, hey, this guy has a lot of great things to say. Yeah, that's basically mostly what I have to say.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure since we, have this problem where we are coming up to, as we pass secondary school and sixth form, we tend to forget some of the problems. But then you really look back, you realize, oh right, sixth form, that was what sixth form was like, very dull, very dreary. And they tried to force in too much and didn't really give us space to actually learn outside of the scope. It was always, as you remember for sure, it was always, well, this sounds interesting, let me make sure I pull back and read something else for the exam. So you'll go to the second talking point now for the clip.
Sorry, the audio.
Does not become mainstream until the artists embrace the fruits of those discoveries. So I applaud Vincent van Gogh for thinking that the sky is what mattered more than anything else in the foreground for this painting. And one point of which I will end on because my time has run out. He's, sorry.
I'm sorry, you.
Yeah. So, so,
The sky is the subject of the painting.
yeah, thank you, thank you.
The first time in history.
Thank you, sir. Right.
The sky is in the mainstream.
Sky is the subject of the painting.
The sky is the mainstream.
Over that time, from the 1880s into the 1900s, many discoveries were being published. Newspapers came of age in a big way, so that the dissemination of cosmic discovery was shared by all. And I submit that opened up a new era of the public awareness of cosmic discovery.
This is interesting because I'll say that afterwards. But so the second point is really on the aesthetic value and the aesthetic awe of science and cosmic idea or ideal. It's interesting because it is pretty much an aesthetic discussion. Artistic, philosophical discussion, ironically indeed. But that's the nature of it. Dr. Tyson kind of emphasized what a lot of artists through history have been saying towards different reality fields. That is, art is the lie that tells the truth. Then he spoke of the Van Gogh painting. That's what he's saying. He's saying that, well, I can see the correct details. I can see that in through the telescope, but the artist sees something different, and the artist expresses something different. He humanizes reality. Until the paradigm of science or science feeling, it has to be spread throughout a social reality. And that's not going to be easily accomplished through strict, I won't say classroom exploration, or I would say exploration. It has to be a social force. That's pretty much that. So what do you think of this? What do you think of this? Art as a vehicle to express the ideology of science.
For me, I love this quote simply because I understand absolutely nothing about science, but art is my passion, my love, my background. And even something as simple as chemistry. My favorite thing in chemistry was turning on the Bunsen burner and watching the reactions of chemicals to the heat, simply because it produced different colors. So, different chemicals produce different colors. That was what I loved about science, because it allowed art to come into it. I believe that art can be a vehicle for anything, and this goes back to the point that I was making earlier, that not everybody learns the same way. So the thing in science that appealed to me might not be the thing that appealed to you. So if you can use science, if you can use art and science, put them together, art and science and music, because music is an art, and put that together, you can reach more people, allow more people to be engaged in science. simply because you're using different methods. So all of this ties back to the point that we're making about education, and that teachers need to have this realization as well, that their students will all be different and take different things from their lessons in the different ways that they teach. Kimberly?
When I first heard this quote, I have to admit, I never really truly considered science as art. And I think that most people, when they think of science, they think of facts and figures, diagrams, lots of textbooks, heavy textbooks, lots of reading. But all you have to do is look outside. Look at a rose closing at night. Look at the horizon when the sun is rising. Look at how a bird flies. There is artistry in the way that nature works, and that is what science is. Beginning to understand the fundamental principles behind what is happening in the world around us. Our very bodies are basically works of art in the way we can see, we hear, smell, and most especially think. Humanity's capacity for imagination is one of its greatest assets. So science in its own way is an art form. It is delving into the mysteries of what we do not yet know to understand it, and by understanding, we can then create more. And that is where innovation is born.
I guess we pretty much all agree on this one. But so opening up then to another audience member, what do you think of this? Art, science as aesthetic pleasure. What do you think of this?
Anyone with an opinion?
Right.
People who
Yeah,
don't
come
know
on.
anything about science,
Even if you
just think a rose is pretty.
Exactly. And even something simple, like for example, mind services, obviously mathematics, where there, I mean, of course, to be honest, some parts of the mathematics isn't technically, let's just say, practical. I say practical, I don't want to say useful. I mean, there are some aspects that are not as practical currently, but they have value. And until just because we don't understand value currently, doesn't mean that just jettison it away. So it still has aesthetic pleasure even in that light. So what do you think of this?
I mean, Rashid, even as much as we're talking about this point, no, I just want to make a quick point about the first talking point before we talk about this, before I forget. I was going to make the point, Kimberly had said that the passion has to come from the students as well. But we live in a society still where parents are largely pushing their children into fields. How do you, as a young person, you're now discovering yourself? Most of us by 16, 17, still don't know what we want. We kind of have an idea of what we like or what we think we like, but we still don't know what we want. We still don't have that resilience within us to say, listen, this is what I'm doing, whether you like it or not. So how do we stand up against our parents who are supporting us and say, you want me to do law or medicine, or you want me to become a teacher, but I want to do science, I want to do ecology, I want to do visual arts, I want to do drama. That's another consideration, the fact that we as young people in Barbados, especially being so conservative still as a society, don't have the freedom to launch out and say, we want to follow our passion. Especially now where Barbadian students have to pay for education. A lot of parents are saying, you're not wasting my money to go and do ecology, you're not wasting my money to go and do dance. You're going to do something that I'm going to see the returns from it, something of the sort. They're not pushing their students or their children to go to places that they love, places that may not be charged to be at in the educational system. They're still pushing them into somewhere that they perceive as being safe, or somewhere that they perceive as still having prestige values.
Yeah, for sure. But the thing about that is that it's kind of one of the bigger issues in this problem is that, yes, we can conceptualize the transcendental institution of what education should be or ought to be. But the idea of getting there, it kind of goes on to a repugnant conclusion, as in, well, we understand this, but the inbuilt social ideas are so stringent, so rigid, that to simply say, well, this is the reality, should be the reality, I think it's kind of like usually taken for granted in these when discussing education paradigm shifting, because the rigidity of it simply makes it stand still and static. It's not even open up for a dynamic movement. So the whole idea, I think, for the education discussions is even more axiomatic than we get to. To what extent then should be our ground premise for education? Because we really have, it's no like we have a lot of problems. Education, we feel it, we know it, but do we think it could be a top-down approach? Could it be a bottom-up approach? I don't think either one actually works properly.
Okay, so then what do you suggest? Connor, Shem, do you have
Names are being
anything to
called.
say? I think Connor had something to say on this point, but I don't know. Do we allow our students just to take the bull by the horns essentially and just decide? Does it call for that? Do you think we should have to go to that level where you just take it and go for it? Or do you not think we being the generation of adults now, because I consider myself as going to adulthood, do you not think we should be able to see that we won't get results, we won't get growth by taking the same process over and over again? Do you not think that we as a community, as a Barbados, should be able to realize that there needs to be innovation? We need to start looking towards different methods. I mean, things have worked for us in the past, they're not working anymore. So are we still going to keep beating them? They're dead already.
See, that's the interesting thing about, let's say, social policy. I know I get that, but the education discussions and so forth, is that over a lot of time and decades, like the whole idea of what education is, like our syllabus and stuff like that is, and you hear this from our professors that we know we get university all the time, that educators as the education professionals who do have academic training education set education philosophies rather than people who are actually, as I say, properly knowledgeable in their field. That was not a problem decades and decades ago. That's a new issue. And if the educators are going to continue to set this syllabus, then we come to tertiary education, professors are still going to be like, how do you not know this? Yeah, it happens so often. And it's not secret anymore. It really isn't. It really isn't. So the whole idea of how having educational professionals is almost, to me, ironically paradoxical. Then we're kind of looking forward in education because they're the ones that set it. We go adults, we don't work at education, we go catch a bank, we go to law firms. We don't actually work at education. So in what aspect do we change education? That's a very good question.
I have had the experience this semester of having a teacher who is still studying towards her master's. And one of the things that almost weekly we hear in her class is that she did not like when this was done in this way, did not basically get her mind into the topic in the way it was being taught. So she's changing the style of the entire course. She's interacting with her students, basically finding out, is this working for you? Using videos, using text, basically giving different outlets for all students to learn, so that even if you have a student who's more auditory, more visual, prefers to write things down, that no one is disadvantaged. So to me, that's one of the best things that a teacher can do. Not to say that, well, it's been done this way all along, so I'm just going to continue on, but actually focusing on what is actually happening and what is relevant today inside of the classroom. Also, to me, students also think that they have no power, that it is this way and there's nothing they can do about it, when a lot of the time all you have to do is speak up. Nothing's ever going to change if everyone always remains silent. It may not always be that every time you make a suggestion that it will actually occur, but at least the thought is now out there. And also as students, as you go on, just because you had this particular experience in the other class, if there's anything that you can do to change it for the next class, the next year, you shouldn't just not say anything in your reviews, in your lecturer your lecturer interactions, you can let this be known that, well, maybe if this had been done differently, maybe if you had taught this in this way, maybe if we had done this project, maybe if we had changed the lab, that perhaps it may have had a better result in the end. So basically, it's not entirely on the teachers, but it's not entirely students. There has to be a balance between the ability of both categories. Both teachers and students need to come together, interact, and students need to stop being afraid, and lecturers need to be more sensitive.
Well, I think our time together is sadly coming to a close. So I think my parting comment would be to use Dr. Tyson's his quote essentially on education and passion and process again. 2 weeks ago, I was sitting in another forum, and my president in that forum used the quote, and he essentially changed it and said, once you have the passion and you use that passion, you ignite that passion, then the process has no choice but to work for you. And I think really that's where it is. If you see your dreams through and you continue that passion, you're determined not to give up, the process will eventually have to work for you. So I would just like to encourage everybody to come out on November 20th to Dr. Tyson's free public lecture. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see somebody who's willing to deliver science in a different way with all the passion and the aggression that he has, and really teaching you, even somebody like me who has no interest in science and who really understands none of the equations, somebody like me is inspired by him. So I just encourage you all to come out to his free public lecture on November 20th, and I'll pass that over to our moderator now.
Okay, so thankfully all good guys came out in the discussion. I enjoyed it, Cherisse.
Yes.
And it's always a fantastic topic because it's something that literally impacts us on a day-to-day, every aspect of our lives. So with this in mind, I hope you, I guess, carry on in your groups, science groups, and so forth. Because as both my colleagues said, you can't just sit down and say nothing can change, but you have to do something. You have to light fires, even lighting your own fire for your own flame. So with that, I would say thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Rashid. Thank you, Kimberly. We'll see you again in another forum.